dobrodošli u najnoviju epizodu Nuggets Europe Srbija podcasta. Nastupamo večeras kao podscenari, pošto naš redovni producent Michael nije sa nama. Radimo emisiju koja nije uživo, nego je snimamo, pa je šaljemo njemu da je doradi da bi ličila na nešto, jer kada bismo vam poslali ovo kako ovde sada izgledamo, to ne bi ličilo ni na šta. Javljamo se još jednom iz 4 studija. U studiju 1 na Ugljanu je naš drug Mislav, u studiju 2 u Beogradu je Milan, u studiju 3 u Lincolnu u Nebraski je Voja. Moje ime je Miroslav, javljam se iz Pančeva. Momci, dobro večer.
Dobro svima.
Dobro večer, pozdrav.
Kako početi? 3-1 za Klipersa. To je ono sa čime trenutno radimo. Nadali smo se da će Nuggets da dobiju ovu 4. utakmicu. Nije da možda nisu mogli da je dobiju. Uspeli su da zadrže Kliperse ispod 100 poena, što je san Michaela Melona u svakoj utakmici. Ne znam koliki mu je san da pritom ostanu na 80 i nekom poenu kako su ostali na ovom meču. Gledali smo jednu play-off utakmicu koja je više ličila na 80 ili 90 nego na aktualni trenutak u NBA ligi. Jako puno bačenih cigli, jako puno izgubljenih lopti na obe strane, ali Klipersi su iskoristili svoj suvi kvalitet ovoga puta, iskoristili činjenicu da ni Nuggeti nisu nastupili kao pravi tim i dobili su, sada su otišli na prednost koja je nedostižna za sve osim za Nuggetse, tako? Nuggeti su pokazali ove godine. Pa ćemo da krenemo od Mislava ovoga puta. On je rekao u prošloj u prošloj epizodi da je upravo plan Nuggetsa da izgube 3 meča kako bi mogli da odigraju komotno na 7 utakmica kako najviše vole. Mislave, da li ide sve po planu?
Tako, ide sve po planu, to je od početka bilo zacrtano. Kao što si ti rekao, kad Nuggetsi gube u zadnje 2 sezone u play-offu 3-1, imaju 100% prolazak te serije. Pa to je to, znaš, sad je Klipersima voda u ušima, Nuggetsi nemaju nikakav pritisak, ništa ne mogu izgubiti i uhvatimo ih na prepad, 1 utakmicu, 2. i 3. i to je to.
Dobro. Milane, jel se slažeš sa ovim viđenjem?
Ako se ne bi slagao, prepad je najjača stvar u basketu, to svi znamo.
Pa to je kao u nogometu što kažu, 2-0 je najgore vodstvo, jel? Tako je u play-off seriji 3-1. Evo, prosto.
Ne, naravno da se slažem da Denver ima šanse da prođe Klippers, jer ništa manje ne bi zasluženo bilo da Denver vodi sa 3-1, umjesto što Klippersi to čine. Tako je bilo i sinoć, gubili su 19 ili 18 razlike u jednom trenutku, stigli su to, izjednačili su nas, ne znam koliko je bilo tačno, da li 48, da. I od tada je sve krenulo nizbrdo, ali ja sam i dalje, ne znam, verujem da Denver može da pobedi sljedeću utakmicu, što bi rekli kao i protiv Ute, utakmica po utakmicu. Ne volim Kliperse, ne sviđa mi se njihov stil igre, nemoguće, ne znam na koju foru su uspeli da iščupaju, ajde ovu sad utakmicu, ali onu prošlu još mi nije jasno kako su uspeli da izvuku. Tako da se ipak nadam da će timska igra pobediti, ako bude bilo tima, da stavim to malo neki kao veo sumlje na neke situacije koje su se dešavale nakon utakmice, ali nećemo sad o tome neki drugi put.
Vojo, ne može se reći da su Nuggetsi izgubili ovaj meč u odbrani, definitivno su bili dovoljno dobri u odbrani u današnje vreme zadržati protivničku ekipu na 94-95 poena je sasvim dobar učinak, međutim napad je onaj koji je zaribao. Kroz celu ovu sezonu mi smo videli da Nuggetsi ili igraju dobru odbranu ili igraju dobar napad. Na početku sezone kada smo svi kritikovali Nikolu Jokića za lošiji početak sezone, Nuggetsi su uporno dobijali meč za mečom igrajući kvalitetnu odbranu, onda su potom negde u decembru, januaru mesecu Paul Millsa povredio, pa je njihova odbrana otišla niz WC šolju, međutim napad je istog trenutka eksplodirao, možda baš zbog toga što Paul Millsap nije bio u postavi, ili prosto nije mogao da deli minute sa Torrey Craigom ili Gary Harrisom ili takva neka situacija. Vojo, da li su Klipersi potpunosti pročitali napad Nuggetsa i da li imaju sada odgovor na sve što Nuggetsi mogu da bacaju?
Pa, tako se čini, 3-1 je velika razlika i ne samo što 3-1, razlikuje se ova serija od Ute, baš zbog toga što protiv Ute Denver bio taj koji je odstupio terena u njihove neke igre. Ovde se vidi da se oni trude i da se bore svim silama, nekako mi izgleda kao da pokušavaju da se održavaju u jakoj bojici reke. Definitivno se vidi da mogu da igraju, druga utakmica je pokazala da pogotovo ako Klipersi zanemare i pocene ekipu Denvera da mogu da i to vrlo lako da pobede. Treća utakmica držali su pod kontrolom, ali uvek je na toj nekoj granici na ivici noža. Ako se jedna stvar desi, preći će na poraz ili na pobedu. Ja mislim da je samo dokaz da Denver nije ekipa koja može da osvoji ako nešto ne ide ako jedna do dve stvari ne ide kako treba. Kod njih mora da bude 100%. Klipersima ne ide sve kako treba, ali dalje imaju kvalitet i iskustvo da mogu i uprkos tome pobede utakmice, pogotovo sa Denverom, a videli smo i sa Dallasom kako je bilo. Što se tiče odbrane Klipersa i napada Denvera, nije toliko kao da su oni pročitali šta Denver radi. Mislim, vrlo je jednostavno, to su komentari neki bili posle utakmice da je Denver i na drugim nekim emisijama kako Denver u posljednje vreme igra samo pick and roll igru sa Jamalom i Jokićem, jer to funkcioniše u većini situacija. Ovde je problem što su Klipersi odlučili da zatvore Jokića, da udvajanjem, utrajanjem nateraju njega da bude asistent, ali ne samo što će on da doda loptu, nego kome da doda loptu. Znaju da mogu Jamala da čuvaju 1-1 jer imaju dovoljno dobra seta, kako bi rekli, pogotovo Patrick Beverley, koji, moram da odam za njega sada neka digresija, on je jedan od tip igrača koji je dosta hvata na galamu i ima tu neku reputaciju u ligi, kao što je Westbrook rekao, prevario je sve da je dobar defensivni igrač i dosta dobija hand checkova od sudija da propuštaju mu te neke stvari koje bi u normalnim situacijama neki igrači dobijali kao svirane kao faulove. Što tiče napada Denvera, jednodimenzionalni su u toj situaciji kad igraju pick and roll i samo igrači koji ostaju sami na šutu ne mogu da pogode. I to je problem. I to ne samo što ne mogu da pogode, nego zavaraju u nekim situacijama, pogađaju sve što šutnu, a onda nekad ne mogu da pogode 3-4 za redom. I onda to potpuno remeti ceo ritam igre i onda Klipersima još daje potvrdu da to što rade je dobro, da Jokića treba zaustaviti, u stvari oni ni Jokića ne zaustavljaju u potpunosti, nego samo remete ritam celog napada time što će da nateraju igrače kao Torrey Craig, Jeremy Grant koji se troši odbrani, Monte Morris čak koji nije spot-up trojkaš, on može da da trojke, ali ne konstantno kao što se to očekuje od Jamal Murraya. I tu nekako Denver odjednom u druge utakmice gde je sve teklo kako treba, sada su došli dotle da je opet pitanje da li njihov napad funkcioniše, da li je ovaj sistem dobar, šta će da bude budućnost Denvera. Zato mislim da Denver tu stepenicu ispod šampionske ekipe još uvek, jer ova pitanja se i dalje postavljaju kod njih. Uvek ima taj neki roller coaster, da li je to dovoljno dobro, da li problemi u povredama, stalno igrači od kojih se očekuje najviše imaju neke povrede i ne mogu ni da budu na terenu, da pomognu. Barton fali, ali opet on već drugu godinu za redom u play-offu je povređen, tako da koliko njega stvarno može da se očekuje kada opet zamaže oči i navijačima, da kao, pa da je Barton tu i svake godine pa da je Barton tu, ali on nikad nije tu i ne možemo ni da očekujemo onda od Denvera da bude ekipa u punom potencijalu kada ne postoje ti igrači na terenu. Opet situacija sa Porterom, da ćemo da pričamo o tome, nije ni bitno jer to nije vezano za teren, ali eto i građenje njegovog samopouzdanja i rušenje samopouzdanja u toku sezone, minuti koje on dobija, ne dobija, opet i to sada pokazuje se koliko je to, kad gledamo u retrospektivi, pogrešna situacija bila i sa njim. tako da onako sve nekako džumbus koji Denveru od utakmice se menja. Znači, pričali smo posle treće utakmice kako je sve ok, kako Denver može da igra sa Klipersima, odjednom smo sada došli do toga da opet kataklizma u ekipi i dalje slačionica kako treba, da li malo on dobar trener, samo zato što, eto, mislim da još nisu na tom stepeniku da bude ekipa kao Klipersi kada ne ide da oni mogu i dalje da igraju. Eto, malo sam odužio, ali nekako zato što je cijel džumbus u pitanju.
Da, definitivno izgleda da su Nuggetsi, kad već pričamo o tome da su jedan stepenik ispod najjačih ekipa u ligi, nisu oni toliko daleko, njima fali jedan čovek, jedan pouzdani napadač na koga će moći da računaju u svakome trenutku. Jer za razliku od zapravo u zavisnosti od toga kakvi su mečapi u određenoj play-off seriji, potrebni su nam različiti igrači koji bi mogli da prebrode glavne prepreke. U prvoj seriji imali smo situaciju protiv Jute da je Jokić igrao protiv jednog od najboljih defenzivnih igrača u celoj ligi. On superstar kakav jeste i pored svih kritika na njegov račun zbog toga što, ja ne znam šta su ljudi očekivali, kakvu dominaciju od njega, on je završio tu seriju sa 26 poena, 8 skokova i 5 asistencija u proseku. Možda smo očekivali više asistencija, ali to je prosto bilo kako je Juta igrala odbranu na njemu. Da bi Jamal Murray imao ogroman prostor protiv veoma niskih bekova Jute, jer ni Conley, ni Mitchell, pa čak ni Royce O'Neal nisu ni visoki, ni dovoljno visoki, ni dovoljno čvrsti odbrambeni igrači da ga zadrže i onda je bilo dovoljno da Jokić izvuče Gobera na liniju za 3 poena, da Murray može da pravi dar-mar. Onda smo došli u drugu seriju gde sada imamo dosta dobar matchup za Jokić, iako Ivica Zubac je podcenjeni odbrambeni igrač, ali u stvari dosta dobar čuvar sopstvenog obruča, ali objektivno gledano nije na nivou jednog Rudy Gobera i naravno Jokić odmah mnogo bolje dominira u takvom matchupu, ali sada imamo situaciju sa Jamalom Murrayem koji je suviše nizak i suviše spor na prvom koraku da bi mogao da prolazi ogromne bekove koje Klipersi stavljaju ispred njega. Kada bi imali trećega igrača, ja ne kažem da to obavezno mora biti Michael Porter, ali definitivno je Michael Porter prototip igrača koji bi mogao da bude treća vrsta napadača u ovoj ekipi, dakle dečko visok 210 sa vrhunskim šutem za 3 poena, odličan u skoku, vrlo agresivan i na svom obruču i na protivničkom obruču, ali da li ćemo da dočekamo da on bude taj treći igrač ili neće, to ćemo da vidimo možda već koliko sutra uveče. Pre nego što pređemo na sledeći segment, ja bih zamolio Voju ako može da raskopča ovaj dukser koji ima na sebi, pošto vidim da ispod njega viri majica, umetničko delo autora Erika Vidama, D-Line Koa iz DNVR Nuggetsa. Pogledajte tu divnu majicu, podržimo Nuggetse i u trenucima kada ne ide sve kako treba i kada su na ivici ambisa, jer nemojte zaboraviti, nije to prvi put da su bili na ivici ambisa, sledeća utakmica će biti čak 4. po redu, koja je za njih win or go home, kako kažu Amerikanci. Vidjet ćemo da li će nastaviti taj niz uspešnih nastupa takvim mečevima. Hteo bih da se samo malkice dotaknemo ove situacije sa Michaelom Porterom nakon utakmice, odnosno na konferenciji za medije. Naime, Michael Porter je u prvom poluvremenu dao 15 poena i čini mi se 6 šuteva iz igre, bio je zaista dobar i jedina prava pomoć Nikoli Jokiću u prvom poluvremenu. Međutim, u drugom poluvremenu je imao samo 2 šuta u trećoj četvrtini i ni jedan u četvrtoj četvrtini, iako je odigrao sasvim solidne minute u drugom poluvremenu, ako se ne varam, da li 18 ili 20 minuta je odigrao u drugom poluvremenu, nije uopšte da je bio van igre u smislu da je sedeo na klupi, ali jeste bio van igre u napadu jer ga je lopta veoma retko pronalazila i ruki od 22 godine je rešio da je njemu svega dosta i da mora da nešto kaže, odnosno da odgovori na pitanja koje su novinari poslali. Znate, novinari nisu prijatelji igrača, oni nisu tu da ih zaštite od neprijatnih pitanja, nego upravo naprotiv, da im postavljaju neprijatna pitanja da vide kako će da se snađu u tim situacijama. Porter, čini mi se, nije imao dovoljno časova iz public relationshipa koje NBA igrači obavezno prolaze kako bi, prosto nemoj da se lažemo, to su momci koji dobro šutiraju loptu i brzo trče i visoko skaču, nisu to obavezno visoki intelektualci koji će znati prirodno kako da se postave prema medijima, uče oni njih puno šta treba da rade i kako treba da rade, ali Michael Porter očigledno nije baš mnogo poslušan. Mislove, šta se desilo na toj konferenciji za štampu? Šta je to on podelio sa novinarima?
Novinari su ga pitali manje više za njegove minute i to je zašto je slabiji imao učinak u drugom poluvremenu. On je čak i pristao odgovorio, nije direktno napao Malona, ali je bilo očito nešto misli. Dakle, rekao je da se i drugi igrači trebaju uključiti u broj šuteva koji uzimaju, a da ne ide sve samo na Jamala i na Nikolu. Iako je rekao, oni jesu naši glavni igrači i najbolji, ali da bi pobjedili ekipu poput Klipersa ne možemo biti toliko predvidljivi, nego moramo uključiti i druge igrače, pritom najviše misleći na sebe. Sad, što se mene tiče, nije to ni krivo ni pravo. Ima se on pravo buniti, samo mislim da je to trebao riješiti u slačionici 1 na 1 sa trenerom, a ne ovako u medijima.
Sad ćemo da čujemo dve različite, pretpostavljam, perspektive od Milana i Voje. Milane, šta bi se desilo da je Michael Porter to uradio kao igrač Željka Obradovića u Fenerbahčevu ili u Panathinaikosu ili zašto ne u Partizanu?
Pa da je, vjerovatno bi dobio batine pred svim kamermanima, isto, ne bi ga spaslo ništa, sigurno. Pa ne znam, vjerovatno bi završio svoju igračku karijeru u tom klubu koji vodi Željko Obradović, jer, mislim, ne znam kako. Ja složio bi se sa Mislavom da on nije, dečko što je rekao, nije ništa pogrešio. Jer mi svi znamo da je koliko god da je on u odbrani nije uopšte dobar, u napadu daje tu neku oštricu i nije on kriv, nije on po meni malo kriv za situaciju sinoć. Dobro ljudi znaju koga ja krivim, ali nije on tema, taj čovjek nije tema trenutno ovoga podcasta. Svoji dvojica su. Ali ne znam šta će se desiti sa njim. Nije trebao to da kaže, jer znajući kakvi su novinari tamo i Twitter i socijalne mreže, to je otišlo u etar baš puno. I ta jedna osoba koju ja krivim za sve to, verovatno to nije lepo primila, tako da ne znam, vidjet ćemo šta će se desiti sa Michael Porterom. Toliko.
Samo se pitam, Bojo, živimo u vremenu ovoga player empowermenta, kako kažu Amerikanci, znači igrači dobiju sve veću i veću moć unutar klubova, posebno superstarovi. Da li si ti očekivao da se ovako nešto može desiti, pogotovo sa jednim rukijem, kakav god da je talent u pitanju?
Pa nije mi bilo čudno da može se desiti, pogotovo što ova era je malo škakljiva i to je opet, kažem, mač sa dve oštice. Hoće NBA da daje igračima moć, da se odlučuju za sebe, da se brinu o sebi, sve je to okej, ali onda postoje ovakve situacije kada onda ne nauče se pravilno kada treba da istupe na javnu scenu i kada ne. Ovo nije neobično ako je to ruki New York Knicksa ili Atlante ili tako neke ekipe koje on bio prvi pik i na njemu je budućnost i onda od njega se očekuje da bude vokalni vođa i da on i proziva i trenere i sve, mislim što ne bi nigde trebalo da bude slučaj, ali to se više toleriše kada je ekipa koja nema ovako dva igrača kao što su Jokić i Marej koji su već, pogotovo Marej, ajde da kažemo da Marej nije pokazao ono što je pokazao protiv Jute, da je samo Jokić u pitanju pa da kaže da će on doći da se isturi, da bude, njih dvojica su glavna ekipa, oni prolaze već drugu godinu za redom u drugu rundu play-offa, nije na mestu da daje takve komentare i može čak biti grublji nego i Milan u ovoj situaciji. Ja sam uvek bio za neku lealnost kod ekipa i ekipe da budu kod igrača. Znači, u ovoj situaciji ja nemam problem ni kod koliko god je Torrey Craig loš i Millsap da loš. Ekipa pokazuje vernost prema njima. Michael Porter ovde nije pokazao vernost prema ekipi koja je rizikovala na njemu. 13 ekipa, doduše 12 ekipa, 2 puta Klipersi su njega preskočili i ko zna gde bi pao i u koju ekipu i u kakav sistem bi upao, možda bi ga terali da krene ranije da igra. Denver mu je dao svaki minut slobodan, svaku slobodu i pružio mu je mogućnost da se rehabilituje na pravi način, da se ne vrati pre nego što je potpuno spreman. Jesu ove godine malo lošije njega ubacivali u ekipu, pokušali da ga integrišu, to stoji. I to opet na treneru, ali opet je to problem uraditi u godini kada pokušavaš na ovakvom zapadu da uzimaš što bolje mesto da bi igrao kod kuće u play-offu što više utakmica i kada imaš ekipu koja funkcionisala, jer ok, on bi uzimao možda Tori Craigove minuta, ali problem je imao i Barton je tu i kada sad pričamo sad opet o povredama, neću da prolazim ponovo, ali ovo nije bilo primjereno da kad je došlo od ESPN-a koji prenosi Denver jednom u 4 meseca vesti koje nisu vezane za neke highlightove Jokića, nešto, kada je ta vest bila jedna od glavnih tema na Jumpu, da li je to ok što je Michael Porter rekao i kada je došlo znači da to nije dobro, kad se Damian Lillard uključio celu priču i potpuno je bio pravo jer on je jedan od tih igrača koji je veran svojoj ekipi i vođa, kad nije ovo, i sve komentare koje sam čuo i pomislio kada sam imao te komentare posle utakmice, ne treba to raditi pred medijima. Kogod da je isfrustriran i neiskusan, sve je to ok, to su stvari za slačionicu, znači nebitno, on je smireno to sve rekao i nije ništa pogrešno u suštini rekao, ali to je rekao pred ljudima koji će to da naprave kao vest. Uspeli su oni, mislim, mediji su napravili vest od toga da izgledalo kad Jokić pitao šta znači flailing, bacakanje na engleskom kada nije razumeo reč, oni su toga napravili da on time prokomentarisao kako šta je to flailing, on ne zna za tu reč, Patrick Beverley lupa, a u stvari je bilo samo pitanje u prevodu engleskom. Znači, kada mediji dotle dolaze, ti daš njima ovako batak pun mesa da mogu da prave svakakve nagađanja, svakakve priče, da se sad sumnja u Malonovo, držanje slačionice, a do prekjuče sve je bilo ok, i Malon je bio odličan što ima poverenje u Michael Portera da završava utakmice. Jednom 2 minuta konferencijom za štampu rušiš sve što se do sada gradilo u Denveru, izazivaš sumnju sada predsjednika tima u svog trenera, da li on ima tu slačionicu pod kontrolom ili ne. Preispituješ sada Jokića koji vrlo dobro znamo da je tip koji može sledeću utakmicu da kaže evo ti sve lopte koje on može da ima u rukama će da da Michael Porteru da kaže dobro, pobedi nam ti utakmicu ako misliš da ja ne mogu i da Mare ne može, i da uzme 3 šuta i da ga boli uvo i da ode kući u Sombor i da uživa u jeseni u Vojvodini. Tako da znači mnogo loša situacija i stvarno, što kaže kod Željka Bradovića, u Evropi završavao bi ili sledeću utakmicu ne bi ni ušao u igru ili bi momentalno bio otpušten ili tradovan, nebitno koliki je potencijal, ali ovo je ipak NBA i pre će biti to da će Malone da snosi odgovornost cele priče nego što će Michael Porter.
Hvala ti. Složio bih se sa svime što si sada rekao. Izgubio sam misao u trenutku. Ne bih se mnogo više zadržavao na ovoj utakmici, prosto situacija je takva kakva jeste, 3-1 je rezultat, moraju da dobiju 3 utakmice jednu za drugom, odnosno da dobiju 6 utakmica za redom u kojima mogu da ispadnu da bi se nekako dogjegali do finala zapada. I u 5. utakmici ćemo pričati upravo sada, ali ćemo pozvati specijalnog gosta da nam se pridruži. U pitanju je naš kolega Nick Hertzog sa sajta Denver Stiffs. On je inače autor i ko-voditelj jednog veoma kvalitetnog podcasta koji se zove The Dig, takođe i piše za ovaj članak, za ovaj sajt, ima svoju stalnu rubriku koja se zove Nick's Nuggets. Istina nisam video u poslednje vreme da je bilo puno izdanja, ali sigurno ćemo ih videti ponovo. Dakle, pričamo o jednom veoma dobrom novinaru sa one strane Atlantika, momku iz Denvera. Sad ćemo da ga primimo u studio. Hello, Nick. How are you?
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey,
Oh,
Nick.
this is good. Your audio is working really, really fine.
It's
Usually
working
when we are on these Zoom calls, we need to wait for a couple of seconds to get inside. Nick,
Yeah.
I gave you a little introduction in Serbian, but please give our listeners a piece of your voyage as a journalist that follows Nuggets around last several seasons that you've been with the Denver Stiffs. Can you give us a short story about it?
Sure. Yeah. I just sort of fell into it. I think kind of like you did. I think we were just talking on my show, The Dig. I guess you probably already introduced that a little bit, but I have a podcast called The Dig. We've had for a couple of years, being a good friend of mine named Jeremy. And yeah, I started following the Colorado Rockies. Actually, I went to college with a guy who was the site manager for Purple Row, which is like Denver Stiff's sister website for the Rockies. And so I started just writing some articles for Purple Row, and it was just kind of fun. I'd gotten really into baseball, and I'm a writer. That's what I went to school for, and what I wanted to do for a career. And so he brought me in, and I wrote some stuff there and had some fun with it. And then a friend of mine, Jeremy, that I have the podcast with, he started with Denver Stiffs just kind of by coincidence. He started doing social media for them, and they really wanted to amp up their podcasting. And so he asked me if I'd be interested in doing a show. And that was that. We started our show 2 seasons ago, and we had no idea what we were doing at all. We just jumped in and tried stuff. We just tried some stuff that we had seen that we liked from other shows, like Pardon the Interruption or Around the Horn on ESPN, if your audience is familiar with those shows. But we always liked the kind of conversational debate style stuff, and we've been friends for a long time, so we always had we can just talk for an hour about something we're passionate about and fill up time. So it wasn't too bad early on, but yeah, we've developed a little bit of a following. It's been, I don't know, as you guys will learn, you're just sort of getting rolling. Does anybody here have like podcasting experience, or are you all pretty new at this?
So we all just started it.
Yeah.
Just thrown out of the plane.
So this is the best way to learn. I say you just have to do it, because I don't know what, nobody's going to college for podcasting. Well, maybe that's a thing. I don't know, but it probably is today. There probably is like a major in podcasting.
Millennials.
Yeah, that's right. But yeah, I that certainly wasn't around when I was in school. So yeah, you kind of just have to jump in and see what works. And everybody's personality is a little bit different too. And I think the show will kind of take on a personality as you go along. You'll kind of figure out what works for your style and your personalities, and what kind of content you gravitate toward.
Yeah, let me just introduce you to the guys. So on the top left we have Mislavchuk, and you might see that his first and last name are quite similar to mine. Right. I'm Miroslavchuk and he is Mislavchuk, and he is our friend from Croatia, long-lasting Nuggets fans since the days of Carmelo Anthony.
Oh, way back, yeah. So I did a little half-assed internet research before I came on. Does your last name mean sugar in English?
No.
Chuk, no.
Okay, so Google Translate is completely unreliable.
Chuk is actually a little owl. Little owl.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, the smallest owl of them all. Mm. The one without, the ears.
Yeah.
But it can be like Zucker. Zucker can be sugar.
I guess I should say.
Yeah. Zucker is sugar, but Chuk is
okay.
not.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
We also have
Oh, I was just gonna say my last name's Hertzog, so you all are in the presence of royalty. Apparently, that's like something in German. I don't know. I'm not royalty.
Yeah. We also have here Milan. He is our guy from Belgrade, actually from Čačak originally, the great basketball town of Čačak. And we also have Voja here. Voja is actually living in Nebraska right now, the hated Nebraska.
The hated Nebraska.
Yeah. But don't worry, he's on our side.
Oh, okay. That's good. I spent some time in Lake McConaughey in Nebraska. It's a big lake. It's pretty.
Oh yeah, that's a good one. It's the biggest one, I think, right?
It's really big, yeah. I don't know.
Okay. So enough with the chit chat. We need to get down to the business. We need to talk about the game 5 of this. Well, we kind of have to, but if you want to pass on the question, I won't mind. So Nick, I will ask you first, and please, guys, just fill in whenever you feel so. So my question for you, Nick, is there any difference to where Nuggets go, whether they win game 5 or lose game 5? Do you think there is a difference between being in a gentleman's sweep 4-1 or going to 4-2 or 4-3 against the Clippers?
Yeah, I don't know. In terms of like decisions that will be made in the off season, I don't know that anything will change from that one game. I'm just really interested to see how they use MPJ in game 5. I mean, in light of his comments after game 4, he stirred up some controversy. There's some NBA players that have called him out now and said it was inappropriate that he basically demanded the ball more. He said that more players need to be getting involved. He didn't say himself specifically, but everybody knows that's what he's talking about because he's the only third. He's by far the best offensive option after Jokic and Murray, and he was hot in the first half. I mean, he really kept him in the game in the second quarter. He's the only guy that could hit 3 the entire first half, and he had 15 easy points on 8 shots or something, and then barely touched the ball in the second half. So on substance, I think he was right. And moving forward, I'm just curious to see if, how does he fit in with Jokic and Murray? Are they seeing him? There's always been this thing about him being kind of a diva. This is not helping that sort of rep that he's starting to develop, calling his teammates out as a rookie to the national press. It doesn't go over well with the alphas in the locker room or the coach probably. But he was right. So that's kind of a tough position that the team is in now, is that they do need to get him involved more. And they are not going to beat this team unless he's a major part of the offense. They just aren't. It's Murray and Jokic are not enough against the 3 solid perimeter defenders that they can put out. So I guess that's my biggest question moving forward. To answer your question a little more specifically, is just, is there going to be a team chemistry problem after this? Can they all work it out and figure out a way to weave MPJ in next year? And how do you build around that core of 3 players who really don't play a lot of defense?
Milan, what are you saying?
I just afraid that Jokic don't go in that his innate phase, and start throwing the ball to Michael Porter all game long, and take only 3 shots, 2 maybe, I'm just afraid of that. Jokic can do some silly thing like that after an MPJ comment. Give that comments, So
yeah, I was just telling Miro, if they're gonna go out, like if they're gonna lose by 20 in the next game, which is probably pretty likely anyway, I'd kind of like to see Jokic just like refuse to shoot, just pass them. 35 times. Just to prove a point.
Yeah, just like that. Yeah.
But you know what's the good thing? Jokic probably didn't see that press conference because he doesn't have any social media or phone or.
He has no idea.
I can see his reaction. Yeah, I can see his reaction. Like someone tells him in the hotel, and he's like, "Oh, he said that? Okay."
Yeah, if you even heard him over his controller.
Oh yeah. Well, the thing with that question is like if we before the series started, there would have probably been a difference if you say 4-1 and 4-2, how you go forward in the way they played. The difference at 3-1, I don't think it will be like it wouldn't matter if they win through a game, game 5 and then lose game 6 because they're already down 3-1 and it's pretty much done. If it was 2-2 and they lose 2 in a row and you say just Clippers had some adjustments and got it to like a 6-game series, but as 2 in a row because they're a better team and everything, that's a bit of a different situation. And with MPJ, yeah, it's going to be a problem. And honestly, I don't even think it's with Jokic, because he's not an ego guy. Like he's fine. Like, yeah, he's fine with winning. Jamal is going to be the one that's, because he was the one that he was grinding to get to the point where he got, again, how he was with Utah and earning that contract and everything. And then now, now a kid's going to call him out. I mean, it's not even a kid, but probably like a contemporary, but with like way less experience and, no college experience, and just kind of walked into a good team. And Murray was there when, when Jokic were there when they were bad, and built them up. Now you just have this kid coming in and be like, oh, I want the ball now because why? And that's going to be tricky going forward between the two of them, especially with, with the talent that MPJ has. He's a budding second best player on the team, even though Murray showed, flashes of 50, but then he shows a flash of 14. So that might be interesting moving forward. And then especially, as Nick said, like with their defense, are we going to completely go, ham and just let's go 120-30 average and win by 5-point margin, be the last defensively and first offensively? Because Jokic can certainly pull that off. It's just that which coach is going to be there to, amen that, that style of play, because Malone's certainly not going to let the Denver be 30th defense in the league and the first offense in the league.
Yeah, I mean, the struggle that they're really having is, how do you win a basketball game, right? You score more than the other team. So is that, but does that mean that offense is more important than defense? No, I think it is a little bit more important, just because good offense generally will beat good defense. That doesn't mean defense isn't important at all. You can't play no defense and expect to win a championship in this league. And the problem the Nuggets are having is they can't get those two things in sync. When they play good defense, they don't have anything left on offense. And when they play good offense, they don't commit on the defensive end. And that's been really frustrating to watch all year. And I'm not sure what the solution is to that. I don't know if Malone's just lost these guys' ear, if they need like an offensive coach to come in and just install some plays and some sets, so that it's just not always on them to be, creating offense every time down the floor. There's some like reliable plays they can go to, other than just the two-man game, because clearly the two-man game alone is not going to cut it against a great defensive team.
Okay. Yeah. You wanted to say
No, that's well, I said, like, when you said about losing their ear, that's interesting, especially like looking at game 3 against Utah. That's where it could, like, if Denver loses that series 4-1, everyone would be pointing to that game, especially with Jokic giving up, as not giving up that, I don't want to play this. It's more like, I don't believe in this system that we're doing, with, like, we're not doing anything on offense. Our defense is porous, and we're not changing anything. So what are we just bashing? And he's not the guy, he's not the Giannis type that says, I'm going to run through a wall. Jokic's like, okay, let's jump over a wall and go around it if we can. Let's be smart about this. So that's where it was interesting. Luckily, we won that series, so that, Malone kind of got off the hot seat a little bit. But now with the MPJ comments and how he moves forward, if he benches him completely, he might lose the job just based on MPJ's potential in the future. And then if he completely gives in and gives him 40 minutes, then it's you're getting manipulated by your rookies. So that's what we talked about in Serbia, and that's what the problem with the comments were, because you introduce this problem on top of already these complications that we're going to get into off season with contracts and players and everything. You introduce this uncertainty. Now everyone's going to have more questions than answers, and difficult questions that we can't know unless off season gets going and the front office does some things. But it's just like, always as an engineer, for me, it was just like, don't introduce more problems. Like, if you don't have to, go as the simplest way you can, and then work on it. And then you introduce one variable in and change one thing and trying to go forward from that way. Not blow up everything right away. And then especially in MPJ's case, don't just tell the problems to people that are going to use it to make stories and make the whole narrative about it. Now the Nuggets that are not. Now it seems like Nuggets are not a team. They're a bunch of, they're two guys with a bunch of bench players that rookies don't like. So that kind of sucks that's how it's going to turn out to be.
Yeah, that's correct. They're not a top tier team, definitely, but things could get much worse than that. They're one of only 6 teams that are still left in these playoffs, so it's not that bad. of a situation. I would agree
they're
that
the second youngest. Only Boston is younger, and those are two of the youngest teams in all of the NBA.
Yeah, correct. So I would expect that maybe Malone will try to give some more play for Michael Porter next game, just because Tim Connolly is his boss. Tim Connolly can get him fired, and even if he completely loves what Malone is doing, he still has Josh Kroenke on top of him. And if Josh Kroenke says, "Listen, man, this guy has huge potential. He is the most marketable guy of all of our guys. I'm not selling, uniforms of Jokic and Murray enough. If I could sell, 1 million copies of jerseys of Michael Porter, that would be really good for our business, because NBA is a business. It's nothing. It's not much more than that. So I guess it's possible that he pushes the narrative on Michael Porter and make him play. I was listening to Matt Moore for the last couple of days. He's harping on one thing: the Nuggets are a really, really good team that is just not good enough to win a title because they are missing one guy. They only need one guy to jump over that hurdle. And tell me, Nick, is Michael Porter, based on everything we've seen in this bubble from beginning to last night, is he the guy? Or we need to find somebody else? Or maybe he is not the third guy, but the second guy, and we need to get rid of somebody else, maybe.
Oh, spicy.
Well, we just threw that in there.
Oh, were you asking me?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Putting you on the spot.
You can say it here,
I apologize. I'm a quart low on coffee. I like this series would be different with Barton. I think in it already. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying Barton is the third guy on a championship team. I think on a championship team, he's like the ideal sixth man. He's the perfect guy to come in off the bench, put up quick points against inferior bench players, provide a spark plug, and be that guy that can be on the court in the fourth quarter that you can trust if he's hot that game, if it's a matchup that suits it. MPJ is a different kind of talent. I mean, 6'10" and athletic, who can shoot 40% from three, is what's the list of the comparables there? It's Kevin Durant's name gets thrown around a lot. Just when you look at him, it's sort of a style of play, his ability to shoot and his length, that's it's kind of obvious why he gets compared there. Now Kevin Durant is obviously much more accomplished, also a much better defensive player. Although that took him a while too. He wasn't a great defensive player when he was young either. So MPJ has to be. He doesn't have to be. He's the most likely to be that third star. And as you said, he very well could be the second. I mean, I would actually argue he could be the first. If Jokic, I think on this team will always be the most important player, like in the way that sort of a quarterback in American football is sort of like, he's always going to be the guy that's running the offense. He's always going to have the ball in his hand, and everything's going to kind of flow off of him. But, I could easily see Porter being a 28, 30-point a game scorer in this league, and being a guy that the other team cannot stop. And if he's clicking, if he's shooting well, when he learns how to play a little defense, he will be unstoppable. He'll be a Kawhi Leonard or a Kevin Durant or a Steph Curry. There's only so many guys in the league that you can count on that way. So it's going to be him if he develops and if he can stay healthy. The other big question mark with him, how well his back will hold up. But the Nuggets probably would be wise to have some kind of an insurance policy too, some other third option. Which I don't know if that's going to happen through the draft. If their budget is going to be a little bit limited next year, especially because they're going to have to pay MPJ a max deal pretty soon here, probably after next season, if they want to keep him, if he even wants to stay. So, there's some question marks there, but I do think I think he could be the guy even as soon as next year.
Yeah, so for him, you said, the injuries, and that was honestly, right before last night was probably the biggest, like, if he's healthy because of all this stuff that he had before. For me, after last night, and like, especially with the comments during the bubble and how he was talking about the pandemic, and now it's with the coaches, it almost feels like if it's in his head, like, if he can, well, like, okay, so you said like 28 to 30 point like score, that's probably likely. It's just that if he's gonna be on like a Hawks team and score 30 points and just wallow in that 8th spot, 7-8 spot, and just like be a prolific scorer in the league, or if he's gonna be a part of if he's gonna be a mature enough player to be a part of a great championship team, that's where I think that mentality comes into play. If he's going to care to be a part of a team, not even like, let's say the Nuggets, he can be a number one option here, but he needs to be a mature number one option if you're going to play with Jokic. And you're still going to be, even if you're scoring 30 with Jokic, you're going to be a part of a system, I believe. And that's for me when I'm like, I hope that improves as well. I know he's young and less experience and everything, and I hope that he has a good support system and people to talk to that, like, this is the mistake that he learns from, because it's a rookie mishap. It's not a symptomatic thing. Like, if he comes out right after the next game and just repeats the same thing or bashes the coaches again, or like he keeps going through the off season, then that's a problem of just where are you going to plug him in? Is he a Knicks player that they're going to always be on the 10th seed and in the lottery, and he's going to score 30 and be fine with it because he gets the hype? Or does he want to be a part of a San Antonio situation where, like, you have Kawhi as a mega star in the making that is an MVP because of defense and how they're playing? Or Denver has potential. You said, like, I mean, if he what we believe he is, Denver can be a Golden State dynasty with a bunch of other players that you can add. When you bring some veterans in, like they did with Iguodala and Livingston, with MPJ being what we hope he is. Now, for me, it's the question of, does he have that in his mind to mature enough, quickly enough to become that? Like, that just, how it was last night, it just felt a little sour to me. Even if he does come out and score 40 and the Nuggets win, still that feeling in my mind is still sour feeling with him at this point. Maybe I'm negative at this point just because he's fresh. But as we come, like Milan and Misla would say, look, from Balkans, like, we have a very old school and traditional mentality. That stuff wouldn't fly. Like we talked about, like Željko Obradović, like all these great coaches from Yugoslavia region. This wouldn't fly. He would be on the bench, like, momentarily. Like, doesn't matter how good you are. Like, this is not something that's acceptable. Like, Bogdanović was the best player in Fenerbahce for a couple of years. Like, he would get the worst flack from Željko for like one single mistake in a game, and it's like, you learn from that. For players, maybe it's not at the moment the best thing because you feel suffocated sometimes, but as we just have that, we were brought up with that. So those comments were terrible to, like, for people that come, like, that's the worst thing you can do as a player. You just undermine your coach publicly and so blatantly, and you're still such a like, he's such like a good plus minus on the box score, but he has such a negative effect on defense and a chaotic effect as well. Is just that you're not at the point of, like, you're not Jokic at this point to just call out a guy like that and your best two players on top of it and do it. To be
honest, I think Malone is much closer to your sort of Serbian cultural expectations that you're describing here. He's more old school too that way. It was not, if he wasn't so young, and if he wasn't, like, this guy's barely even ever played basketball with a team. Like, this is, he got to college, he had his high school team, which he'd do whatever he wanted in high school. He could have, I don't know, sure, he was a big man on campus in high school.
38 points a game.
Right. Yeah. Whatever. It didn't, he didn't say whatever he wanted in high school. That's not on video. When he got to college, he was hurt almost immediately and never really had to fit into a team or make that work in any way. And now he gets thrown into a competitive NBA team and put into a playoff situation that's super weird. This whole bubble, model is bizarre. Nobody's ever dealt with anything like this before. So I want to cut him some slack. I mean, he is very green. Like, this is a this is a young guy who really doesn't. He's not super worldly yet. It's, like he doesn't. He stuck his foot in his mouth, a few times over, different, social things going on recently and stuff like that. He's not quite sure how to like navigate public perception and how to get along with his teammates and stuff like that, like you're describing. And so, yeah, all that has to come. I mean, he can't be a star and he can't be a championship level like leader and player until that stuff is there. Yeah. So yeah, how quickly can he develop it? I guess, like, is this playoff series going to be enough for him next year to be this seasoned vet who knows how to handle a tough series against the Kawhi Leonards and LeBron Jameses of the world? Probably not, but maybe it's good enough for, maybe he doesn't have to be quite that guy just yet. Maybe we're looking at more like in 3 or 4 years, he's kind of the alpha. Because I honestly don't think Jokic even wants to be that. He just wants to do his thing. He just wants to throw the ball around, do his thing, let other guys take credit or get the spotlight. He doesn't care about that stuff, and I really love that about him. But you kind of need a Murray or a MPJ though. I think at times too. There are times you just have to take the game by the throat, and you just have to want to actually like murder the other team. Metaphorically, of course.
Yeah.
And Murray and I think MPJ has a little bit of that in him too. I mean, the fact that he's got the balls to go out in public and say the stuff that he did last night. I don't think it was like some strategy. I don't think he thought it through. I think he was just asked a question and he just answered it honestly, because he was honestly, like I said before, he's probably right. They do need to be spreading it around more. So his take wasn't the problem. It was just the way he did it. And that comes with age. I mean, I still put my foot in my mouth all the time because I have a problem. Not like I'll on Twitter or whatever, I'll just say, call somebody out for being wrong, and I get in trouble for it still. And I'm 37. So it does happen. And I can kind of relate, to that a little bit, being more focused on truth than tact. But
no, yeah, completely. Like I wasn't, like as I said, like I'm not. It's not like, oh, this is catastrophe, as in he shouldn't play ever again. It's just like like how it would be dealt with back home is different than probably would be dealt here. And I'm just saying, as you said, we've done, because I mentioned health is like that was for us, like up till this point that was the biggest question mark of if he's healthy. But we've seen him fall on his back and stuff and get up spry, and he's super quick and everything. So now for this, that's what you said, that's the next step of trying to develop. And it would be the best case scenario is he develops from jumping into the third best player on the team and going up all the way to being the alpha, or at least the second best. And in this case, what you said with Jokic, it's like he doesn't mind being the third best player. Like the third alpha or whatever, with MPJ and Murray being the leaders, and he just does his thing. So that's the best case scenario for Denver, and then they win like 3 out of 5, 3 championships in 5 years, because with those 3 guys, it's possible, especially just surround them with good defenders and competent spot up shooters that are, they can just make when they're open. It doesn't have to be like a tough shot. Just like when you're open in a corner, just make, get a PJ Tucker consistency. That's enough.
We saw from Gary Harris in game 2. I mean, look what that did for the offense in game 2.
Yeah,
that was probably the single best performance I've seen this team put together on offense and defense combined ever.
Yeah.
And it was, I think, large part because Gary Harris was the old Gary Harris that we thought we had 2 years ago. Because when he's hitting, it opens up everything else, and then he's a scrappy, really hard-nosed defender. So that's another guy. And Grant hasn't been hitting open shots. Like there's a lot of sort of blame and just junk going on in this series that's frustrating.
Yeah.
I sorry, Mislav. I always say that Jokic needs to be, and he will be probably the best player in Nuggets. But for me, someone else has to be the best scorer. That's my opinion. All this year. And if Jamal or MPJ or whoever take that spot, Nuggets will have the bright future. About this for sure,
I think MPJ is very young, like 22, and he was, as we all were, frustrated after the game, and it was just the heat of the moment that the reporters asked him those questions, so he just let it out. Well, I think it could be positive. It could be some positive from this because most of us agree with what he said, and maybe he was trying to address that to Malone privately, but he ignored it. And he should not have done it, but since he did it already, let's hope for the best that he will have a nice one-on-one talk with Malone. But I think that MPJ will get some words that he's not ready for. If they want to speak like man-to-man, Malone will tell him all of his faults in his game and why exactly he's not getting the ball or the minutes. Maybe about his lack of defensive effort or about his team spirit. So I hope they will have a chat one-on-one. And as you guys were saying, I would be the happiest if Jokic just passes every ball to MPJ out of spite, because of Enoch, and that MPJ just starts to shoot all of them straight to the baskets. It would be a weird...
And he puts up 50 and they win by 20.
Yeah. And both of them are fighting, you want the ball, here's the ball. And okay, I'll get the ball, and then he scores. And I think that's the recipe for the victory tomorrow.
Yeah, that was actually my next question. So we are all Nuggets fans. So we are allowed to have our Nuggets fans hats on our heads, and we need to hope that there is some kind of scenario where Nuggets win next 3 games and just advance. So we are now in the fantasy land. Tell me. Mislav already said Michael Porter for 50 for the next 3 games, and that sounds like a good plan.
Yeah.
Nick, do you have something else to offer us for this fantasy question?
I mean, okay, so something that I think is actually reasonable that could happen is...
Well, this is reasonable.
Right. That's a good point. If Grant can find his shot and be a consistent offensive contributor.
And that's not reasonable.
Yeah, you're right. No, I mean, even if he just got back to, he's a 40% 3-point shooter, in the regular season. I mean, he had some flashes against the Jazz too, where I thought his offense was pretty important. It's possible. I don't think he can do it for a whole series, but I do think if they can get one game, like this next game, if he got 20, let's say, and shot 4 out of 5 from 3 or something, that's not out of the realm of possibility. And if he could maybe get an rebound, occasionally, would be helpful. So if he could step it up a tad, and be some kind of a contributor, if Malone stops putting Millsap and Torrey Craig,
oh my God,
together,
don't even
it's
start.
It's gonna kill me. Yeah, it's gonna give me a heart attack.
Best bodies.
And if they get MPJ involved, if they make a concerted effort to get him involved and he gets off early, and that frees up Murray a little bit to start getting into some kind of rhythm, then I think we could see a repeat of Game 2 for at least 1 or 2 games. And then you get, if you can get to a Game 7, anything can happen, basically. I mean, anybody can get hot, anybody can get cold, anybody can get hurt. There's all kinds of myriad things that can happen in a Game 7. I think if we got to a Game 7, we'd probably see something like we saw in Game 5. It would probably turn into this ugly, just no offense, bunch of fouls, gross basketball. But I don't think it's impossible that they could battle back to a Game 7. I don't know if you guys remember. You might not. I don't know. Probably. Well, who's the oldest here? Mira, you're probably the oldest, right?
Yep.
Were you following the Nuggets in the early 90s?
Oh, not really.
Not really. Okay. So the very first Nuggets game that I ever went to. Sorry, I'm talking a lot. I just realized I didn't mean to take my show.
Please,
just keep
while you're here.
Nero got me all going on the last podcast we just did, so I'm all chatty. Early 90s, the very first Nuggets game I remember going to, I was 10 years old. I was a big Bulls fan at the time, Michael Jordan and everything. But they were getting they got smoked in the beginning of a series. It was a 5-game series then against the Sonics, who were one of the favorites. They were the favorite to go to the finals from the West against the Bulls. It was the Sean Kemp, Gary Payton Sonics with George Karl as the coach.
I remember that one.
Yeah, Nuggets got down 2-0, and they came back and won 3-2, 3 games in a row. the next series, the Utah series, they got down 3-0, and they ended up coming back 3-3 and taking that to a game 7. And I was at the game 4 where they were down 3-0. My dad got some cheap tickets. Like, it wasn't, nobody thought they had a chance. And they won the game. Like, I remember it being a real close game, and it was just super, I don't know, it was really intense, and we were way up in the nosebleeds. But anyway, that's what turned me into a Nuggets fan. So stuff happens in sports. Like, this is a talented team, and the Clippers have a tendency to let up on when they think they don't have to go full out, because the style of play that the Clippers play is hard. I mean, it's the high energy, grind it out on defense and offense sort of style that I think it's hard to keep that up for 7 games. And so I think they could come out and just put their foot on the Nuggets' throat in the next game. I could also see a scenario where they sort of let off the gas just a little bit. The Nuggets are mad. A couple people get hot, and we find ourselves in a game 7. I don't think I'd like the Nuggets' chances in a game 7, but if we even get there, it'd be so great.
Yeah.
That's all I'm really hoping for this series.
I just hope I will not see Torrey Craig and Millsap minutes.
Oh,
I hope to see PJ Dozier. He is in every aspect of the basketball game better than Torrey Craig, even at defense.
Mm-hmm.
And I really don't understand why Malone play Torrey. I swear you to God, my room is messed up every single night when he is in the game. My wife will throw me out of flat, believe me.
You have to replace half your furniture at this point.
Yeah, the game's played at 3 a.m. in the morning, and I'm screaming in the house. You have no idea, man. No idea. No Torrey Craig and Millsap minutes, and I still believe Nuggets win this in 7.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I was right in Utah series when the game was when they were down 3-1. I said it, the Nuggets win in 7, and that shit happened. So.
Actually, Nick,
man, and I have the tweet to prove it.
That's right. Yeah. Nick did it too. Yeah, I can confirm.
So for me, like, the realistic, as you guys said, like, it's not this series. It hasn't been, like the Utah thing. You looked more hopeless than this series did with the 3-1 because of just how So this is strange. Like, for realism, like, we talk about the game too. How that was the pinnacle of how it's done. From that, like, difference, like what you said, like, we have Harris, Millsap, Grant, and then MPJ were like your 4, essentially X factors. So we need kind of like 2 of those to be like at 5, like the 13 to 17 points, and then the 2 of them to be like competent on defense. And then you have Murray, because Murray's the one that like has let down. That 3rd game was his. And so if he can get up to like 17 to 21 with Jokic scoring like 25 to 30, that could be, and then not every game, just like you have those 4 guys and like just rotate them, within 3 games, because you can have like, Grant hits everything. The next game they adjust on him. Gary hits some threes, so they have to like readjust, and then Millsap can get some threes, and obviously MPJ because he can get hot 3 in a row. But if he gets hot, like, 2 out of the 3 next, if they can get to it, but like 2 out of the 3 games, if he gets to like 15 to 20, that's like you're playing with house money if he goes off for 20. That's, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It's just the problem is how the rhythm is going. It doesn't seem likely, but it could happen if we're going out with our Nuggets hats on.
The bubble has been weird too in terms of like momentum, hasn't it? Like, almost every game just kind of feels like it's, in baseball, there's this saying that momentum only lasts till the next starting pitcher. Because in baseball, it's all about pitching, right? So if you get a great performance from your starting pitcher, it doesn't matter how hot a team is on offense or whatever. The pitcher will always dominate if they're really locked in. I think it's kind of similar here, like in the bubble. For some reason, it seems like maybe it's just the lack of fans, or maybe because like they're playing on the same courts and there's just no travel. There's nothing to kind of I don't know, throw sort of wrenches.
It's easy to bounce back, I think.
There's like, it seems like, right, it just seems like every game is just kind of like this clean slate. It's like playing like games of ping pong in your basement or something like that. It's just like, oh, we're just on to the next one, on to the next one, on to the next one.
Yeah.
The last game didn't matter. And if that's the case, I do think if the only way they're going to win too, I think the series is, I do think Jokic is going to need one monster game. Maybe it's this next one. Maybe he has to just go, I'm going to score 40 with, 20 boards or something like that. And just absolutely try to dominate in a way that's not really his style. But if, maybe there's one he can get where he just puts them on his back, frees things up for Murray a little bit, maybe in the game after. And with a little bit more of incorporation of MPJ, maybe it's a different series. But yeah, it's just Malone's got some things he can do here. It's just, why are we in Game 5 before he's doing them?
Oh my God!
It's strange. Well, like the bubble thing is crazy because like you see the Celtics Raptors series, the Rockets and OKC, like one team just gets two in a row where like the Celtics had 2 30-point wins. Almost like 20-some point wins, and then they get 2-3 close ones. Then now during Game 7, you have no idea. Like I wouldn't be shocked if Celtics go up and win by 25, or Raptors get squeak one out with like in the last seconds. Like OKC almost beat Houston when they looked like they shouldn't be in the series at all. How it started, so that's what you said. Like just a weird bubble, like that because of how it is with no fans and empty gyms and walls are like really close, so like the shooter perspective is different, and you just get up one day like hope you feel good because you didn't travel and didn't wallow, and it's also the games are really close together, like there's no break because you think about you get 2 in a row, for example Boston wins 2 in a row in Toronto, and then they go to Boston to play after a couple of days, like Raptors have to sit with that home losses, and then you go to Boston, it could have been a sweep. Like with Denver, like you win 1 in LA. Like the Game 2 in LA, you go back to Denver, it's a whole different story. That Game 3 might be like a blowout again because of just how it is with the fans and travel, and you hear for 2 days straight, with you're not in the bubble of people around you, they talk, and so this way, just get up from the hotel room, you don't have to watch anything. No one's going to talk to you about what happened in the real world with the comments, and you just keep going and playing.
Yeah, I mean, imagine if they were playing this game in LA. Game 5, that's where it should be in LA. Game 5 would be over. I mean, it would be a blowout. Like, but you eliminate all that noise, and it's just a game. It's just a bunch of guys in a gym, and we're just starting over again, and that makes it different.
The worst part of it all is Denver could lead 3-1 this series, and in the worst case scenario, it could be 2-2. Yeah. That game number 3, we shouldn't won that game. Mm-hmm. We slip it out, and we were. I was convinced last night that after we came close and it was 48-48. I think I was sure that Denver will win, and it will be 2-2. But I hope we win the next one.
Yeah, I have to agree with Nick about monster game from Jokic. I cannot guarantee 3 monster games from him to close out this series in Denver's favor. But why not Game 5? I don't even think he needs to drop 40 on Clippers. He just needs to drop like 25 in the first half and give Nuggets that cushion, so everybody can start shooting more relaxed, like having a 15-point lead, and then those shots just go in, just like with Utah in first 4 games of the series. Utah was just shooting the lights out because they had no pressure of the result whatsoever. They were just completely relaxed and shooting. Okay, I promised Nick we will do a Star Wars segment on this podcast because he's a huge fan, but I will have to call him.
It wasn't in my contract or anything.
It is in your contract, but I will have to take a rain check for that because we are already way out of our normal hour of recording. So Nick, please join us again.
Words, Sorry, guys.
Join us soon again, and we will discuss Star Wars and Denver Nuggets and how they correlate between each other.
Yeah.
Probably in the off season, it would be a perfect time to.
No, man, I would love it. You guys, I'd be happy to jump on anytime you want to have me. I really appreciate it.
Excellent.
I may need to have some of you guys on too, if Jeremy's work keeps being dumb, I might need a new co-host for the dig. So we'll see what happens.
Okay.
I might recruit one of you.
Thank you. Okay,
right,
thank you very much for joining us. I hvala vam što ste ostali sa nama do kraja ovoga podcasta. Samo najsnažniji među vama su izdržali do kraja ove 75-minutne emisije. Samo da vas još jednom podsjetim, pratite nas na našoj YouTube stranici Colorado Europe, pratite nas na našoj Facebook stranici Colorado Europe, pratite naše emisije kada ih snimamo uživo i na Twitteru, pratite nas na Spotify-u, tamo takođe imate Colorado Europe kanal, od skoro imamo kanal i na Google podcastu gde su epizode ažurirane, tako da mnogo je načina da nas pratite, budite nam zdravi i veseli i nadam se da se vidimo ponovo za 2 dana posle jedne pobjede Nuggetsa. Ćao, pozdrav.
Ćao, bye.
Do svidanja.